Sofronio Vasquez returns to his childhood home. Where his dreams began, the trajectory of a global superstar often moves forward at a dizzying pace, leaping from one stage to another, from one country to the next. However, for Sofronio Vasquez, the historic winner of The Voice USA, the path forward recently required a meaningful look backward. The singer took his legions of fans on a deeply sentimental journey this week, sharing intimate photographs from a visit to his childhood home in the Philippines. It was a rare, unguarded glimpse into the physical space where his massive aspirations first took shape, long before the world knew his name. In a touching Instagram post, Sofronio shared a series of images that captured the quiet simplicity of his origins. He posted photos of himself standing inside the room where he grew up, the modest kitchen where family meals were shared, and the front of the house that sheltered his earliest ambitions. He described the visit as deeply meaningful, admitting that walking through those familiar doors filled him with a complex mix of pride and emotion as memories of his youth came flooding back. "This is the very home where I started to dream," he wrote in the caption, adding that every corner of the residence brought flashbacks and a strong, overwhelming sense of nostalgia. The post served as a grounding moment for the artist, who made history in 2024 by becoming the first Filipino and the first Asian to win The Voice USA under the mentorship of Michael Bublé. Since that monumental victory, Vasquez has continued to make waves on the international stage, including a prestigious performance of the Philippine national anthem during the 2025 State of the Nation address. As he looks to the future, the singer has hinted at exciting projects currently in the works, including an upcoming extended play, EP, featuring collaborations with music legends Michael Bublé, David Foster, and Paul Anka. In December, he also released the holiday single, Maybe This Christmas. Yet, despite these high-profile achievements, it is his return to that humble room in the Philippines that tells the most significant story of his life. To truly understand the weight of the emotion captured in those photographs, one must look beyond the walls of the house and into the soul of the boy who lived there. The story of Sofronio Vasquez is not a fairy tale of overnight success. It is a documentary of resilience, silence, and the sheer will to survive when the odds were stacked against him. Sofronio's journey began in Misamis Occidental, in northern Mindanao. The home he visited was not a palace. It was a sanctuary in a life that was often defined by fragility. Growing up, stability was not a guarantee. He was raised in an environment where the threat of uncertainty was a constant companion. In various interviews, he has alluded to the financial struggles of his upbringing, living with the anxiety that comes from limited resources. In that small room he photographed, a young Sofronio would dream of a life bigger than what he could see out the window, but the path to that life was obscured by the harsh realities of survival. As he grew older, the pressure to secure a stable future weighed heavily on him. In a culture that values practical professions, the dream of becoming a singer often feels like a dangerous gamble. Sofronio, being a dutiful son, understood the sacrifices his parents made. To honor them, and to ensure he could provide for his family, he pursued a career in dentistry. It was a noble path, a beautiful profession, as his father called it, but it required him to bury his artistic identity under layers of responsibility. For years, he tried to balance the two worlds. He was a familiar face in the local singing competitions in the Philippines, including Tawag ng Tanghalan. He was the contestant with the golden voice, the one who could silence a crowd with his tone. Yet, despite his undeniable talent, the doors to superstardom remained firmly shut. He faced the specific, suffocating pain of rejection, the feeling of being almost good enough, but never the champion. He was the runner-up, the finalist, the singer who was respected but not chosen. There is a profound loneliness that settles in when a dream is deferred. It is the quiet drive home after a loss. It is the feeling of watching years go by while your passion remains a hobby. For Sofronio, the The stagnation in his music career eventually collided with the economic hardships of the time. Faced with the need to survive, he made the agonizing decision to leave the Philippines. He packed his bags, left the home he recently visited, and migrated to the United States. He did not arrive in America as a star. He arrived as an immigrant, anonymous and starting over from zero. He settled in Utica, New York, and the microphone was replaced by medical scrubs. For a long, quiet season of his life, Sofronio Vasquez worked as a dental assistant. He traded the applause for the sterile silence of a clinic. The hands that now collaborate with David Foster were busy sterilizing instruments and cleaning dental chairs. Imagine the internal landscape of his life during those years. He went from performing on stages to being an invisible worker in a foreign land. The immigrant experience is often one of deep isolation, the feeling of being a stranger in a vast country where no one knows your history. In the clinic, beneath the surgical mask, the artist was suffocating. The hum of medical machinery replaced the music. The fear that his time had passed must have been overwhelming. He had to grapple with the terrifying thought that perhaps the music was just a childhood fantasy, something that belonged to the room in Ms. Amos Occidental, not to his new reality in New York. He was thousands of miles away from the home he loved, working a job to pay the bills, while his soul starved for expression. The uncertainty of whether he would ever sing professionally again was a constant shadow. Yet, it was in this very silence that his character was forged. He learned humility. He learned patience. He learned that a dream does not die just because it is sleeping. When the opportunity to audition for The Voice USA appeared, it was a desperate, terrifying leap of faith. It was the dental assistant deciding that he was not ready to let the boy from Mindanao down. When he stepped onto that stage, he was carrying the weight of every rejection, every lonely night in the US, and every sacrifice his family had made. When he sang, he wasn't just hitting notes. He was releasing the years of struggle. He was singing for the immigrant who felt invisible. He was singing for the contender who didn't win back home. He was singing for the boy in the photo, standing in that small room, dreaming of a world that seemed impossible to reach. The victory that followed was historic, but for Sofronio, the true triumph was the reclamation of his identity. He proved that the detour was not a dead end. Now, as he stands in that childhood home again, looking at the kitchen and the front yard, the circle is complete. He is no longer the anxious boy worried about the future. He is a testament to the power of holding on. The photos he shared are not just images of a house. They are evidence of a foundation that held strong against the storms of life. Sofronio Vasquez commands deep respect not because he won a trophy, but because he survived the years when he was losing. He is a champion because he cleaned floors and sterilized tools with the same dignity he now brings to the stage. He reminds us all that no matter how far we travel, and no matter how lost we feel in the wilderness of our struggles, the way home is always waiting for us. As he walks out of that childhood room and back onto the global stage, he carries with him a powerful truth. The most beautiful castles are built from the stones that were thrown at us. His journey is a quiet, emotional assurance that if you keep your spirit alive through the darkest nights, the morning will eventually come. And when it does, you can go home again, not as the boy who dreamed, but as the man who realized them.